Okay, hello. I thought I would make another update video because I don't do bad start. Okay, I thought I would make another update video because I haven't made a video in quite a while. The last video I made was the second day of being on SSRIs, and I'm still on SSRIs. I've had good results with them before, and so I intend to stay on them this time, at least for a while. At least until I feel like I don't need them, which or it's hard to all right, so this is a classic example I use of being an idiot, which I've done before, and many people do. So you're depressed, right? So what do? You get on, let's say you go to the doctor and you ask them, hey, is there something you can do to make me less depressed? And then, they give you an antidepressant, you start taking them, things get better. Then a year later, half a year later, something you say, I don't feel depressed anymore, so I'm gonna stop taking them. And then, half a year later, you find yourself back in the doctor's office and you're like, yeah, I'm depressed again, I don't know why. And then you realize, oh yeah, it's because I stopped taking my antidepressants and they were just working. And the reason you're depressed didn't exactly get fixed in the first place. So so that's just to say, whenever I say like, whenever I feel like I don't need them, I mean, I would be very careful about that and probably be pretty quick to go on them if I need them again. I personally take them for anxiety, a pretty bad anxiety. But without them, or with them, my anxiety is pretty manageable. So, yeah, I'm not sure what day it is for the SSRIs. Last time it was day 2. This time, I don't know. It's been about 2 months. I'll probably calculate it and put it in the video title, just for organization's sake. And man, whenever I'm on video, I feel like it's just so, and then by myself, I feel like it's just so different than like if I was just in a conversation. But maybe it isn't. Maybe I'm just more aware of it because there's a camera on me. It could definitely just be that. But anyway, I'm gonna do some questions, and I have already one question that loaded. And I figured I would give myself, I would let myself do this one question that I've already seen. So maybe I have to think about it less or whatever, because I mean, it's not really like, I don't even have to explain this. I don't even have to justify myself. I just do. Yeah, so I won't, I guess. And the question is, do you prefer to dance in the rain or stay cozy inside? So I think I used to like to dance in the rain, but nowadays I like being dry. And I actually really don't like going out in the rain. But, you have to do it sometimes. And if you do it, I always say, it's not as though I'm made of sugar. I'm not going to just melt. And yeah, but I avoid doing it where I can. But usually when I go out into the rain too, I don't really take proper precautions. I don't really like using umbrellas. I'll just throw on like a hoodie, something that doesn't even roll the rain off, and then it'll get soaked, but I'll be dryish. But no, I like staying inside, and I really like being inside whenever it's raining out. It just feels really cozy. When you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grow up? Okay, so I'm gonna answer this in order of everything that I've ever wanted to be when I grow up. The first thing, I don't know. I think really the first memory I can have of like wanting to be something when I grow up was probably in 7th grade, so that's about 12 years old. And then, we had to make some kind of coat of arms thing for art class or history class or something, I don't know. And in one of the 4 panels, I had to make a little illustration of what I want to do when I grow up. I had no idea. Somebody wanted to be a marine biologist. I don't know what other people were really putting. I can't remember at this point, but I was a big gamer and I like to play Xbox 360. I was playing a lot of Halo 3 and Call of Duty 4, mostly Halo 3. And I drew the MLG logo back when MLG was big. And for those unfamiliar, that's Major League Gaming. And I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna be a pro gamer. I did not become a pro gamer. Yeah. Now, I will go ahead and say that I've actually reached the top of near top of a couple games. I don't necessarily think I have what it takes to play any game professionally, but I think maybe if I really dedicated all my time to it, and I, disciplined myself in other ways, I could probably be a second-rate pro player at like teamfight tactics or something. Something that's not too mechanically intensive, mostly using the brain, maybe a little bit more strategy or turn-based or something. Because I was decent at Hearthstone and I got Grandmaster in TFT, and I was one of the best at RuneScape 3 as well, in killing bosses and stuff, which was the hardest thing to do in the game. But still, I wasn't anywhere near as good as the best person. I mean, like when I say one of the best, I mean I was like, I was playing with the people who were the best. I am personally friends still with the person who was best at the game by far. It's not even close. Like I was playing with him. I was on his teams of like, I was on his team of 7 whenever the new boss came out. So I mean, I was good, but the game didn't have that many players or people who were actually trying to be good at killing bosses. So I'm not exactly sure where I would rank myself, but anyway, these days I wouldn't pursue being a professional gamer because first of all, that's a career that you should get into while you're young, and I'm 25, which is not that old, but it's old enough to be maybe a little disadvantaged, and it's definitely old enough to have a short career. So yeah, it just doesn't, it wouldn't make any sense for me to do that. I'm also not passionate about any games or anything, so and the money's just not good. I make a handsome chunk of money as a software engineer at a big tech company that you've probably heard of, and so at the moment I don't think I would give that up for really much. Like I would consider maybe going into trading because that also has good, it also pays well, and there's a lot of problem solving, and I have a friend who's a trader, and he's very handsomely paid, but I think he's also quite a bit smarter than I am, and I don't know if I could actually make the cut at the top tier firms, unfortunately. Um, it's just that software engineers are in higher demand, so I get to make it through the cracks of in with the actually talented people. um, because they just need so many of them, and yeah. And I would also consider going into research in some capacity. Like, it's always been a possibility in my mind to go back to school and do a PhD. Well, first a master's degree because I only have a bachelor's, but also to do a PhD. Um, However, I actually have quite a bit of difficulty with pushing through when there aren't clear answers. Um, and well, pushing through when there aren't clear answers and whenever there's an expectation on me. I find that kind of difficult to deal with. And big things, you know, a dissertation is just a big giant wall of awful if you haven't started it yet. So I'm not sure that's great for somebody like me who is very words. I procrastinate a lot, and I also have anxiety problems. So it doesn't seem, it might not be the smartest thing for me to do. Right, so when you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up, right? So that was the first thing I wanted to do. The second thing I wanted to do is whenever I was in 10th grade, so this is around 15 years old, I went to the optometrist. And so, you know, those are the people who give you glasses, they check out your eyes. And this is the first time that I had ever been to an optometrist because my eyes honestly don't really have any problems with them. At least they didn't at the time. My eyesight's not what it used to be, but I digress. Words, again. Oof, I'm a little tired. What was I going for? Fuck. Oh yeah, so I went to the optometrist and I sat in a chair and then this guy just flipped a little switch. You know, I was looking through this thing and then he'd flip it and be like, 1 or 2? 1 or 2? And, you know, I would say which number looks better for me. And then 1 or 2. You know, just keep switching them out and keep repeating this process basically. And then that was pretty much it. And I was like, holy shit, being an optometrist is the easiest job in the world. I want to do that. So in 10th grade, when anybody asked me what I wanted to do when I was older, I said I wanted to be an optometrist. Now, the next thing I wanted to do was when I was 1 year older than that. I was in grade 11. I was about 16. I really actually started, I had to apply for university next year, so I really needed to decide what I wanted my career trajectory to be. At this point, I realized that I actually really disliked biology or anything that had to do with rote memorization, so med school was just going to be a wash for me. There's no way I wanted to go through that. That would be torture. And so I started looking to math and physics because I really enjoyed math and physics. Oh, actually, before we get there, also in 10th grade, I had to do a project on, I had this class called Civics and Careers. Half of it was politics, half of it was careers and career studies. And so we had to pick a job that we wanted to aim for and make a realistic plan for in the future. And so I chose Professor of Theoretical Physics, where, you know, I would be a professor, get a PhD in theoretical physics, basically, and study like string theory or quantum gravity or something like that. Yeah. Then grade 11 came along, and I was like, I looked into it and I realized that the job market for physics graduates actually wasn't so hot. and the probability of becoming a tenured professor in physics was, theoretical physics was not the best. And despite my interest in it, I am not exactly a gambling man. I like to make solid decisions that on average work out pretty well. So, I mean, if I was ever going to go into academia, I would probably do it in computer science, and that would probably pigeonhole me into machine learning because it's a very hot field right now. But the probability of getting a tenure position or a research scientist position is actually quite high, especially given my background. So, you know, that wouldn't be, that's just to clarify on what I meant earlier there. If it sounds like I'm saying two things that aren't consistent, they are indeed consistent. So I was looking into it and I found out that actuary is a job that gets paid a lot. Basically, they're people who do stuff with calculations on insurance, you know, risk analysis. And you have to write a bunch of exams, but then, you know, you make a lot of money. And so I was like, cool, I'll do that. But then I wasn't sure if I was really actually gonna have the motivation to take all the exams. So I switched course and I just said, okay, you know what? Let's be like a statistician or an analyst or something, you know? And so that's what I went to university for. I studied, my major was statistics. My first year was just a general math degree, but yeah, I was studying statistics. Then I took my first programming class, and I enjoyed it. In fact, whenever I went into university, I said, there's no way I will change my major unless I try computer science and I like it. Because my high school didn't have computer science classes, so I didn't know what that was really about. Yeah, and then I tried it, and I enjoyed it. And I realized that I did some research into the job market for computer science. And not only did I enjoy it, but I also did very well in it. So, you know, I had reason to believe that I would succeed in that field. And yeah, I learned that software developers were paid just as well, if not actually a little bit better than statisticians. And this is before I knew a ton really about the software engineering industry and before it totally boomed in terms of salaries. But yeah, so I realized that that was actually a pretty good path for me to take, and I went down that road. And yeah, that's what I did. And so pretty much ever since then, I decided I would be a software developer. Although that was when I was in Canada, and now that I have come to America, I'm a software engineer because the title is unprotected. If you created a photo calendar, what photo would you put for November? I will not lie, the first thing I thought of was a animated hairy nutsack because of No Nut November. But I guess if I wanted to be a little more subtle, which I probably would in case I invite anyone to my house or video call my grandma, I would probably put a peanut. Or something else entirely. You know, maybe I would have like a themed calendar, in which case, you know, the nut might not fit in at all. But in general, I actually like little references like that, like a peanut, for example. It's like, if you know, you know, and if you don't, you don't. Yeah. Has your taste in music changed in the last 10 years? Oh my God, what a question. Yeah, 10 years ago I was 15. So when I was 15, I was probably listening to a fair amount of metal, actually. Trivium, Chimera, Metallica, Slayer, whatever else. I liked Pantera. I liked metal. And then 1 year later, I got into rap because I started, even though I hated rap actually, because I started watching a RuneScape streamer and he always listened to rap. And so I watched him enough that I actually ended up enjoying the songs that he listened to. My gateway was like Kid Cudi, Lil Wayne kind of stuff. And then it just kind of grew from there. And eventually, you know, I came to like full on degenerate mumble rap, like Migos and stuff. And the exact same thing happened with electronic music. I started watching a streamer who was the aforementioned best RuneScape player ever, who I'm now friends with. And he listened to a lot of electronic music. And so I actually thought if I listen to electronic music, maybe I'll be better at the game. Like I'll just copy what he does. You know, maybe there's something to it. So I started listening to it, like kind of ironically, and then like, you know, I started unironically enjoying it. And from generic electronic music, I've also branched off into techno, which doesn't mean what you probably think it means. It's really heavy bass kicks, a little hard to describe. And I also am a big fan of music like Billie Eilish and Lana Del Rey and other, I'm not sure what you would call the genre. I guess nowadays I think it's labeled alternative, maybe something a bit wistful or moody or whimsical, typically female. And I like those kinds of songs. And I would say that's probably what I listen to the most these days. But I don't listen to too much music these days, actually. And what I do listen to is I mean, it'll just be like whatever I've been thinking of, really. Like every now and then I'll listen to some Muse, or maybe every now and then I'll listen to like some Billie Eilish, maybe like Camila Cabello, or just really whatever I'm feeling. Eminem maybe. Could be all over the place. But it's, I don't actually really listen to new music much these days. I mostly just put on a pair of headphones and listen to something I already know for maybe up to an hour at a time at most every couple of weeks. I would say that more or less describes my current music listening habits. What is one part of your morning routine? Well, I turn off my alarm, and I would say that's probably the most consistent part of my morning routine. Yeah, I don't really have a morning routine per se. I would kind of like to have one because that would create more stability and consistency in my life, which I think would make me more emotionally stable, which is positive because that would help me reach my goals. But for the time being, I don't really have a morning routine. Yeah. Do you work better at home with background noise? That is a really strange question. At home with background noise. I have much more background noise when I'm in the office. So this is a bit of a hard question to answer though. So my company is hybrid. So we are in office 1 day a week on Wednesday. And for the rest of the week, we are, you can either work at home or you can go into the office if you please. All of my colleagues only go into the office once a week. I, however, actually go in every now and then, mostly for free food, but also because home has distractions, not necessarily like other people, but you can do anything you want when you're at home. I can go watch TV if I want to. I can just read my phone to no end if I want to without the fear of anybody judging me. I can do whatever I want without being seen. I can go take a walk if I want to. I could take a nap. You know, the possibilities are endless. And so it's much harder to stay focused on one task. And so that's why I go into the office sometimes, and free food, free lunch. Um, yeah, and so this question's a little strange. But I will say that whenever I go into the office on Wednesdays, when everyone else is there, it can actually get pretty loud from 3 p.m. onwards because people are kind of like not working so hard anymore. They're just like socializing with their colleagues, and it can get pretty loud, especially past 4 o'clock. And at that point, it can actually be pretty hard for me to focus. I would have a much easier time focusing at home. But for most of the day, it's actually, I think I can focus better at the office, generally speaking. Would you rather work from home or an office? So I do like the hybrid approach. Personally, I've actually found myself kind of in scenarios where I've been working from home for, you know, a couple days and I'm stuck on something, and I feel like, and this is especially the case if you're new at a company like I am, I kind of feel like it's a really big deal that I'm stuck and like everyone's gonna dislike me and think I suck, and you know, I'm not moving as fast as I should be, etc., etc. And then Wednesday comes around and I go into the office and everyone's super nice and everyone is chill and like, you know, happy. And I realized like, oh, what was I thinking, man? Like it wasn't such a big deal. I have awesome support at my company and on my team. And you know, I shouldn't need to worry like that. And so for me, I think going into the office every now and then is a little bit invaluable because of my anxiety problems. However, I do think there is quite an economic problem with the hybrid model because not only do companies need to have big buildings, but people also need to have home offices, which usually takes an extra bedroom, maybe two, depending on, you know, if you have two working people in the home. And although I'm sure most people wouldn't have two home offices actually. And so that's a problem because that's just a ton of real estate used for the purpose of business instead of housing. And so that just makes it even harder for everyone to get housing in the already difficult market. So I don't think it's really economically viable for companies to keep doing hybrid unless they significantly downsize their offices and come up with some kind of regiment that allows people to use the space evenly. You know, without going over capacity or being too far under capacity. But even then, that will require more space than everyone simply working from home or everyone simply going to the office. So it's kind of a difficult situation. But with that being said, I don't really think I would want to work full remotely. I've done it before for like a year and a half, and you know, it was manageable, but I do prefer going into the office every once in a while to see people. And a lot of people probably hate me for saying that, but that's just me. Like I mentioned, you know, I have anxiety problems, and that actually really helps my anxiety. It's also a forced reason to get out of the house and get some fresh air and some walking in, because I walk to work and back. So it's pretty nice. But I don't think I would want to work in office 5 days a week, probably. I haven't tried it, but, well, I did for a little bit at my very first job, but I could see that getting tedious for sure. For me, it wouldn't be so bad because I'm like a 25-minute walk away from my workplace. But if I was, you know, an hour drive away or something, there's no way I would want to go to an office every day, because spending 2 hours just driving every single day is such a waste of time. So I It's hard. I also think that in the long term, um, working from home will negatively affect people's mental health, and they probably just haven't really cued into that very well right now, or they don't really understand that. But I think it's much easier to interact with your colleagues and have a basically kind of forced, nice social atmosphere, nice social connections by going to the office. And there are plenty of people who don't need that, for sure, but I think there are also a lot that do, because we actually live in a pretty isolated society. Okay, what is something that you don't like to do? Cleaning. As you might have noticed, my house is an absolute mess, but that's not really my fault because it's my wife's job to clean, and she's currently in the Netherlands. And so that's, you know, if she's not here and she's not cleaning the house, well, it's not really my job to clean the house. It's my job to make money, which I have been doing. So, you know, maybe she should pick up the slack. But in all seriousness, no, I just don't like cleaning. What is your role in the company? Ooh, it's a business-oriented random question generator. My role in the company is to build software and release software and fix software. Yeah. What is the best way to get over a breakup? They say that the best way to get over someone is to get under someone else. However, that's probably not true. I don't know, I think you probably just need to give it time. I've only really experienced one breakup, and I can't really judge how well I got over that, because that's a very hard thing to judge. But I think coming out of a relationship, if you think you did nothing wrong in the deterioration of your relationship, then you're almost certainly wrong about that. The likelihood of, you know, a relationship failure being totally one-sided is incredibly small. So, you know, assuming both people are reasonably sane. And I mean, even if they're not that sane, you know, you should know better to walk away at some point, or to not play therapist, or etc. What would you name a kitten? Well, when naming a kitten, I would definitely take into account the fact that it will one day be a full-grown cat, and so I wouldn't give it a stupid name that only sounds cute for kittens and not for cats. But with that being said, I don't know. And what is something you do that you don't like to do? I'm generally not very excited about going to work and doing work and stuff, but I do it, and the more you accept it, the more you can enjoy it. So, yeah, something, I mean, I do clean every now and then, so maybe I can use that as an answer. What is your preferred jelly bean flavor? I don't eat enough jelly beans to know the answer to that. The last time I had a jelly bean was probably like over a decade ago. Which season is your favorite? So I think the answer to this question also kind of highly depends on where you were located geographically. So when I was living in Canada, I would say that my favorite season was probably spring. Now that I'm in America, I think it's still spring. Um, but fall is also nice. In Canada, the winters are too cold and the summers are too hot. Or, yeah, they're a little bit too hot. And now, here where I'm located in the US, near New York, um, the summers are way too hot. And I have yet to experience the winter. It probably won't faze me much, but dealing with snow in general is just kind of a hassle. So, and cold weather. So I think spring and fall are pretty nice for like doing stuff. I guess in fall you can like kind of hike better because it, the, the hills and stuff won't be all muddy. But what is something you are looking forward to? I am looking forward to the day that my wife comes back to the United States of America, because then we can just be together again, and that will be the end of it. This period of separation between us, which has lasted for about 2.5 months now or something, I'm not a fan of, but it was a necessary evil. Do you have any short-term goals? I do, actually. I would like to, well, I do have more specific goals. I would like to get through this little tech interviewing course thing that a good friend of mine wrote, because I just need to practice programming more, because I think I honestly suck at it and I need to become more fluent in code. Okay, actually this video is incredibly long, so I don't think I need to answer any more questions. I have no idea what my voltology will look like. I honestly thought it would look more clearly NEFI 2-stick as per usual, but I don't think I've moved once. So we'll see what this looks like. Yeah.